Hello everyone. In today's video, we'll be discussing about one of the LeetCode problems. Now, if you are a beginner and you're trying to crack technical interviews and you are beginning from the basics, I will highly recommend you to go onto the LeetCode website and try the level 1 study plan. In the study plan, you will have easy, medium, and hard problems. So as you can see on my screen right here, I have 20 easy problems to solve. And if you're trying to solve like 2 problems per day for 15 days continuously, I believe you will get that confidence to move on and try more medium to hard problems. And it will definitely help you ace the interviews. Now let's move on to the very first problem of day 1 in LeetCode, that is the running sum of 1D array. In this problem, we are given an array nums and we need to define the running sum of the array and return the array as the answer. So there are a few examples given, like if I walk you through the entire um, application or the web page, I would say you would get the problem here and you will get the explanation also. How do you need to proceed and what can be the output for the problem. You are always given some constraints based on which you need to solve your problem. And after that, maybe you can write some code over here. You can choose any language that you want. Right now, I'm using Java. Also, you can look for the solutions and the different submissions that other people have made. But right now, whenever you are trying to solve a problem, I will highly recommend you to give it at least 30 minutes or 1 hour. Because even if you go to an interview, any interviewer will give you one problem and he will or she will give you a 30 minutes or 1 hour time to understand that problem and solve it. Okay, so you have to go through the entire procedure of understanding the problem, coming up with a brute force, then optimizing it, and then finally writing the code for it. So that is why I'm recommending you that instead of putting hours and hours into one single problem or maybe quickly looking up the solution, just give yourself 1 hour to go through the problem entirely. And if you're not able to come up with a solution, then maybe you can move on to try to look for other resources or the solutions or discussions in this particular channel. Okay, moving on, let's discuss the problem. Now let's look at the problem. Here we have an array nums and we need to find the running sum. It's a very simple thing that the element at any index will be the sum of the current index plus the sum of all the previous indexes. So right here, because it is a running sum and we are starting with the index 0, there are no previous elements. That is why the running sum of 0 will be equal to the element at index 0 of nums. So here we'll have 1 only. Move on to the index 1. So we have to sum the element at the 1 index plus all the previous indexes. Here the only previous index is 0, so we have it. Elements are 1 plus 1. Moving on to the second index. So element at current index plus all the elements at the previous indexes. That means 0 plus 1 plus the 2 index. Here the elements are 1 plus 1 plus 1. Moving on to the third index, again the current index plus all the previous ones. Here you will have 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. There you have it. Now let's see the answer. Here you will have 1, here 2, this will be 3, this will be 4. So clearly you are able to see that at every point we have to preserve the sum of the previous condition. Now let's move on to the second example. Here the nums array contains elements 3, 1, 2, 10 and 1 again. Let's try to calculate the running sum. As you know, we have found out with the observation that running sum will contain the addition of the current element with all the previous elements. So at index 0, it is very clear that it is the first element and there is nothing to its previous indexes. That is why the element here will be equal to the element in the nums array. Moving on to index 1. Here my current element is 1 and I have to add it to all the previous elements. Previous element is 3, that is why the answer here I can say is 4. Moving on, I have to add this 2 to all the previous elements. Now again make an observation that instead of again going to 1 index and 0 index and then fetching the value, I can simply pick this particular sum value and add it here, and this will give me the next value. Moving on to the third index, the current value is 10 and I have to get the sum of all the previous elements, which again you can pick from here, which is 6. So this will give me 16. Again moving on to index 4, I have the current element 1 and I can simply use the prefix here or prefix sum here, which is 16, and this will give me 17. So the array that I have to return now is 3, 4, 6, 16, 17. So yeah, that was the approach in which we have to keep a track of the previous sum. This approach is also known as prefix sum, and this was a very simple example of this particular approach. There are n number of problems that you will be able to solve by understanding this simple prefix sum problem. Now let's move on to the pseudocode for this. What I have to do is simply iterate through the entire array and then keep track of the sum. Now please remember, we have to return an array that contains the running sum of all the elements. So this is my approach. Now let's move on to the terminal and write some code. Now let's try to write the code for this. Now the first thing is that I have to return an array, and that is why I create an array. Now I'll name it as running sum, because in the coding interviews you are always asked to write an industry ready code. So all your variables should make sense to the interviewer. Now what should be the size of the array? Now the size of the array will be equal to the size of the original array. So maybe I can take a variable here n, and n will contain the length of my nums array. Moving on, you also know that the first element of my running sum array will be equal to the first element of the nums array. So I'm just copying that. Moving on, what do I need to return? I need to return my running sum. Okay. So this was the boilerplate code, you can say, and all I have to do is now write the logic. So in my logic, I am iterating towards through the entire array. I'll begin my I with 1. Why 1? Because I have already completed my value prediction for the 0th index. So I'll begin with 1. I have to go up till the length, that is n, and I can increment my array. Now what was I doing? I was saving the values in running sum and running sum of I. Okay, and this was containing the value of the current element. Now my current element is in the nums array, and this value was being added to the previous sum. And as you know that the previous sum is being stored where? In the running sum array. And obviously it will not be at the current position. In current position, we are actually trying to add the numbers. We'll pick out the previous position, and the previous position will be got by I minus 1. So yeah, you have got your code. Now let's run the program and check whether it is running fine. Yes, it runs fine. Now let me submit it and see if it is working for all the test cases. Yeah, great. It has been accepted now. So yeah, that was all for today's problem. If you like the content, please like the video. If you find it helpful, please comment down below and let me know that you liked it. And subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in my next video. Till then, happy coding.